Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Good evening, Maverick family. I'm Rick Walker. Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel. Getting things configured here before we get started and before I fix the lighting. I just want to let everybody know that Freedom Fred is alive and well and in his new home. And there's the fish cam. He'll swim by at some point. He seems happier now that he's in his new country. So we'll be checking in with Fred from time to time through the night as we embark on our new project, I guess, our new journey of creating this utopian society for Freedom Fred. And you'll see that I have him muted. And there's a reason for that. There's a technical reason, and also it's to send a message to our friends over at YouTube. And that message is that we're going to be very, very good community citizens from now on and do our very, very best to not say anything that might offend anyone at any time on YouTube. So we have Fred muted so that he doesn't inadvertently, by mistake, say something that might offend someone. We wouldn't want to do that or go against community guidelines in any way. So this is the fish cam. Tonight, we're also going to talk about the wildfires that are burning out in Alberta and British Columbia tonight. We're going to talk about Joe Biden. There's a new poll out that suggests a lot of people think he might be too old to run again for re-election for another term as president. We have all that and more coming up right here on the Maverick News Channel. So stay with me. I am going to just briefly dip out of this while I push a few buttons, adjust a little lighting. I've been a little bit behind today in all of the things that we've been doing because I've been taking care of Fred's needs. Being an overlord, a ruler over a fish is a lot more work than one might think. So forgive me, I need about 30 to 60 seconds to get things completely configured here. I will be right back. Okay, we're looking better already. Well, Fred's looking better. There's not much that I can do about myself. Let's get things cranked up here. Take this short promo, break, transition, whatever you want to call it, and we'll come back and start in with today's news of the day. Don't go away.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow, maybe too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, I'm back. Thanks for hanging around. Those wildfires, we'll start there tonight. Let me see what I have as the latest information here. So there are more than 100 wildfires burning as of tonight. I believe 109 in total at the moment is what the count is, according to Alberta Wildfire. And we can check in on their status dashboard, I think, here, just to get you the most. 108 at the moment. And current year wildfires, 401 so far. But a lot burning all at one time at the moment. Here, let's bring this up and I'll show you the Alberta Wildfire dashboard to give you the most up-to-date information. Here it is. So you can see they have 108 active wildfires. And these big red ones in Alberta are out of control, meaning the wildfire is burning and is expected to continue growing. They don't have control of these ones yet. So this one is up near Rainbow Lake, just south of Rainbow Lake. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 20, about 25 fires right now. Maybe as many as 20, between 25 and 28, I guess, fires burning and designated as being out of control at the moment. And the yellow flames indicate those are fires that are being held. Given current weather conditions and resources, the wildfire is not anticipated to grow past expected boundaries. These green ones are under control, not expected to grow. The wildfire has been completely contained and is being extinguished. The blue flames indicate fires. It's mutual aid. The wildfire is outside of the forest protection area and assistance is being provided to the lead agency. So 108 at the moment. In total, so far this year, 401 wildfires. And some of the images coming out of Alberta and British Columbia, where they also have a lot of wildfires burning tonight, are amazing. And at the same time, in some cases, actually horrifying because of the danger and the destruction. Here's a satellite shot showing more than 80 of the current wildfires in Alberta. This was about 6 or 7 hours ago. Amazing. The technology we have today is amazing in itself. The fact that we can see these from orbiting satellites, these fires, and look at the amount of smoke that is being generated. That's, I mean, from up high, it looks bad enough. Down on the ground, if you were close to any of those fires, those are huge. Large areas, intense heat, very dangerous. So let's get you the latest information. All right, let me get my notes up here. Okay, so we know that there are more than 108 at the moment burning out of control. Well, not all of them are out of control. We have 108 in total burning, and about 25 are still not under control. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith and opposition leader Rachel Notley both met today, and they discussed the wildfire situation and the response. So far, it isn't known exactly what was said in that meeting. Yesterday, Danielle Smith, the premier, did call a state of emergency so that to have access to emergency funds and reach a higher level of intergovernmental coordination. Last night, I explained, contrary to what a lot of people are thinking, declaring a state of emergency at the provincial level is not the same at all as what Justin Trudeau did by invoking the Emergencies Act federally. It is not the same. And some people are honestly freaking out because a state of emergency has been declared, because they think their rights are being taken away. And that is not the case. It's not the same. The provincial government does not have the broad, sweeping powers that the federal government does. And that Federal Emergencies Act was renamed the Emergencies Act. It used to be called the War Measures Act. They renamed it when they rewrote it in order to broaden the scope of that legislation, of that law. And it does give the government the ability to do an end run around your constitutional rights. And we saw that during the Freedom Convoy, but a lot of people are confused. And that is not what Danielle Smith has done. That is not what has happened in British Columbia either. And Smith says that it's not a step that was taken lightly. She says it is one that will allow the quickest and most effective response. She says the measure allows for a more comprehensive response to extraordinary events. It also ensures that emergency centers are fully staffed, that other government agencies are able to work across borders, notifications are sent out properly. As I said, it allows the government and emergency crews to access funds, money, and make purchases for any kind of equipment or supplies that might be needed to respond to the emergency quickly, instead of needing to go through the usual process of having expenditures approved um, and debated, which could sometimes take days, weeks, maybe even months. You can't do that when you have a situation like this. So we know that more than 24,000 people in Alberta have been forced to leave their communities. This is making international news tonight. And at last word, some of these areas are the ones that still have evacuation orders. Parts of Brazeau County, parts of northern Sunrise County, parts of Mackenzie County, the entire town of Rainbow Lake, parts of Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation and the municipal district of Greenview, Fox Creek, Little Smoky and surrounding areas, parts of Big Lakes County, some areas of the county of Grand Prairie, parts of Lac Sainte Anne County, parts of Yellowhead County, including the town of Edson, the communities of Whitefish River and Alkimeg, Parkland County, and the hamlet of Entwistle. So that's the most up-to-date information we have for you at the moment. And yes, some of these images are I'll show you this footage. I think it's been a little bit color enhanced to make it look even more dramatic than it is. But even if it hadn't been, this is just unbelievable. Look at that. This was back from 2018. And the reason, to show you this is to show you that these kinds of occurrences happen really every year. I believe this was out in California. And we went over stats last night to show you that, as bad as all of this is, this has happened before. It will probably happen again. And a lot of people are, and it doesn't just happen in Alberta. It doesn't just happen in BC. It happens wherever you have large forests. California, they have a big problem with wildfires out there as well. It's something that people always need to be mindful of in the way that they extinguish campfires, dispose of cigarette butts, the way that they use fire in general. You have to be extremely careful even where you park your car when things are dry, because your exhaust system can actually ignite dry grass. Homes, entire communities have been destroyed in these kinds of wildfires in the past. People have died. The authorities are telling people that anyone sort of ignoring these evacuation orders are putting themselves at real risk. And maybe not only themselves, but others as well, including emergency crews who might be asked or needed to, if they need to come in and rescue you because you've ignored the evacuation order, you're putting the emergency crews at risk as well. And there's all kinds of speculation about why these fires are occurring and at this rate. A lot of people speculating, saying, claiming that these fires are all being, or most of them are being set intentionally, that this is a case of arson. I'm seeing people suggest online, and people have phoned me to say that they think this is actually something political, that these fires are being set on purpose to make Danielle Smith look bad, or that the government, the federal government, is behind it. This is what's in some people's heads. We did look at those stats last night. We know that about 50 to 60% of all wildfires are started by people, but it's generally accidental. Even trains making sparks can ignite a wildfire. Trains with the wheels on the tracks making sparks. The brakes get hot. They can ignite dry grass. These fires can be started by a wide range of things. Danielle Smith addresses this in this next clip that I have lined up for you. Let me get this for you. She's asked about this, and it is something that is foremost in some people's minds tonight. I've seen people making actual allegations saying that these fires have been set intentionally.
Good day, Premier. Thank you for taking my question. When the fires began, it appears that they were near a lot of oil towns. Are these fires being deliberately set?
I don't think we can know. What we do know from what I had heard earlier, and I'll get Christy to comment on this as well, is that the typical way that a natural fire occurs is through lightning storms. And so the presumption is that the vast majority of these fires are human caused. That can mean any number of things. It can mean off-highway vehicles. It can mean campfires. It can mean a cigarette out the window. It can mean carelessness. It can mean sparks. So there's all kinds of ways in which these fires can start. Christy, did you have anything to add to that?
That's correct, Premier. Majority of wildfires in Alberta, unfortunately, are caused by human activity. That doesn't mean they are all deliberately set. They are the majority of them inadvertently caused by recreational activity or burning that goes out of control. So you're quite right in saying that there's not necessarily a direct connection between a fire being human caused and it being deliberately set.
And do you have a follow-up, Arthur?
I do. I just left the evacuation center here in Edmonton, and spirits are quite high. You know, tasks are being looked after, people are being fed, people are smiling, actually. If Premier Smith could have one message to these people at the evacuation centers, what would that message be?
Well, we're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that they have the resources that they need. And we're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that these fires get fought so they can return home. We're working very hard on protecting communities because we know that as the communities are protected, it just makes it so much easier when the evacuation is over for them to return home and get life back to normal. And those are the things that we are 100% focused on right now.
Operator, could you please put through the next caller?
The next question is from Karina Schultz, CBC Edmonton. Please go ahead.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm just curious to hear about which communities right now are facing the greatest threat of fire and are perhaps, being watched as hotspots or, could take a turn for the worse.
I'm sorry, folks, my microphone was muted. So we pulled out of the Danielle Smith. Apologize for that, folks, but my mic is back on now. Okay, so we ran the Danielle Smith clip. I pulled out of the clip because the information on which communities are most affected, we already gave you that list, I believe. Did you guys hear that list, or was I muted at that point as well? I think, okay, I'm going to go over that list again just in case people missed it. So what do we know? We have 108 wildfires burning right now. About 25 of them are considered out of control. Yesterday, Danielle Smith declared a state of emergency. That is not the same as the federal government's Emergencies Act. It does not give the provincial government the same kind of broad sweeping powers that the federal government has when they invoke the Emergencies Act. It does not give the government the same ability to strip you of your constitutional rights. Are your rights limited to some degree by any laws? Yes, but not the same way. It's not the same thing. Declaring a state of emergency allows the government to respond quicker, get more resources purchased if necessary, and make decisions faster without having to go through the usual process of tendering things and debating how money is spent, and also to access transfer funds from the federal government, etc., in a more expeditious manner. About 24,000 people have been evacuated from various communities. The areas most affected right now are parts of Brazeau County, parts of northern Sunrise County, parts of Mackenzie County, Fox Creek, Little Smoky, and the surrounding area there, the entire town of Rainbow Lake, parts of the county of Grand Prairie, parts of Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation and Municipal District of Greenview, parts of the county of Grand Prairie, parts of Lac St. Anne County, parts of Big Lakes County, Yellowhead County, including the town of Edson, the communities of Whitefish River and Aitkameg, and Parkland County, and the hamlet of Entwistle. So those are the communities most heavily affected at the moment. And please, if they have issued an evacuation order in your community, please pay attention, because if you do not, you may be putting yourself and others at risk. Also, we do not know exactly why these fires may have been started. Any of them, they are under investigation. Some people suggesting that they're all being set intentionally, that there may be political motives behind it. The truth is, we don't know. We don't know. And yes, if you do see some suspicious activity, authorities are asking people to call in and report that. So if you see someone starting a fire, of course, report it. Don't just let things slide. Are there arsonists out there? Darn right there are. Yes. But we don't know if some or even any of these were the result of arson. We'll have to wait and get more information as it becomes available. And we'll deal with facts, not speculation. And that's the way it goes. So, I mean, some people are so jacked up, they're like fit to be tied and they're ready to do crazy things. So don't do that. What can I say? I can say what I said, and then I hope people just listen. Yeah, so crazy footage, eh? Crazy footage. Unbelievable. And here's some pictures of Danielle Smith, the premier, on the scene, meeting with first responders out there, firefighters. This was near Entwistle. She said she met with many of the families who were evacuated. She says it's a difficult time to be displaced. She's thankful for what the firefighters out there are doing, and for the police officers, nurses, doctors, paramedics. And she's on the ground checking out the situation, and the government is responding. So she's trying to keep a handle on things. And hopefully everyone out there stays safe. That's the situation with the wildfires out in Alberta. And I hope you can still hear me, because I've been having a lot of technical problems here tonight. I think we're okay. All right, so let's take another quick break, and when we come back, we'll dig into some of the other news of the evening. We'll get into this story about Joe Biden. Some people think he's just too darn old to run again. And my guess is most of you probably feel exactly that way.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
There he is, my co-host, Freedom for. Oh, there he is. Oh, what a ham. We're going to make him a YouTube star, whether he likes it or not. We have issues to address, though, with regard to Freedom Fred. So this is his new home, his country. He's there alone right now. He doesn't even know I exist. If he does, I'm an abstract figure. I'm actually in control. He just doesn't know it. So I guess in that way, I could be considered his god, or some shadowy ruler that he doesn't fully understand. Oh, he thinks he's in control of his own destiny, but is he? I need everyone to start to think about these issues. You know, he's been an expensive little fish. This socialism thing that he's enjoying, and doesn't even realize that he's enjoying it. He's just so demanding. What did I have to do? I had to get him a tank, and I had to get him a plant. I had to get him all this stuff. And what's he done to earn his keep? Nothing. But he's going to start to earn his keep. We're going to make him work by swimming on camera, generating views, so we can raise the funds to keep him. Yes, he's going to have to earn his keep. He can't just freeload off the system. He's got to go to work, man. He's got to be productive. Yeah, that's better. You make it look good too, pal. If he wants free health care, he's going to have to earn it. even if he thinks it's free. Yeah, we're going to tax him 100%. Well, you guys can decide. Because I had to buy like pH testing kit. I had to get a heater because the water wasn't warm enough. I had to get the alkaline, the pH just right. The water was too acidic. And thank you, Gina. You saved this little guy's life. You're like a fish doc. You know that? Miracle worker. She said, you got to get baking soda the other night. And I was like, oh, good tip. As helpful as the two young ladies were at the pet store yesterday, I mean, the fish orphanage, they failed to talk to me about the pH level of the water. And thank goodness Gina mentioned it, because I went and I got that pH testing kit and it was way too acidic for little old Fred here. So I have since adjusted things, and he has his little heater in there. It was just too cold for him. But this is, you see, I actually can control the climate. He doesn't even know it. And then, yes, there were chemtrails right across the top of his tank when I threw all the chemicals in there to make the water just perfect for him. The perfect environment. But all this comes at a cost. And somehow we have to create a sustainable environment for Fred. Going to have to give this some serious, serious thought. So, what about Sleepy Joe? A lot of people have doubts about his age and his mental state, his acuity. A new poll shows that his job approval rating has hit a career low. The poll shows that a lot of people are concerned about his age. They think he's too old to run again, to be president for another term. His job approval rating hit a career low in a new poll conducted by ABC and the Washington Post. 68% of Americans polled say he's too old for another term. It puts him in a trailing position against top Republicans in early preferences for 2024. Only 44% saw Biden's potential opponent, Donald Trump, as too old. Trump is 76 years old. Biden is 80. 80 years old. And we've seen at times, most of the time, Biden slipping mentally. He's not sharp. When you have to have some dude or maybe it was a dudette, in an Easter bunny costume, tell you which way you're supposed to walk and take you by the hand to guide you over to where you're supposed to be, you got a problem. Remember that during the Easter egg hunt? And he was over there and he was meeting the families and the kids, and then he didn't know where to go and he got all confused. And the person in the big Easter bunny costume, you're going to come with me, Mr. President. And then they took him away. I mean, that was like surreal. That was like something out of a weird Alice in Wonderland movie or something. I don't know. You know, Trump's getting up there too. When I look at Trump, he's still sharp, but I find that he is like different than he was when he was younger. He doesn't seem to have the edge that he had when he was younger. You go back to the 80s and the 90s, even, the 2000s, and he was like this young energy. He had more energy. He had an edge to him that he does. I don't think he has that today. Maybe it's just because he has evolved He's more mature. Maybe he's more laid back. He's made his mark. He doesn't need to prove anything to anyone in the way that he did when he was younger. Now he's just out to leave behind a legacy, I guess. So maybe because his focus has changed, his demeanor is different. But I definitely see a difference in his presence. Maybe declining testosterone and older age. Maybe that's the factor. He's more thoughtful, maybe, than he was back then, although in some ways he seems more immature than he did when he was younger. It's like he's aging in reverse or something. It's like kind of strange. So Biden has some challenges ahead of him, and I don't think he has the confidence of the voters. But hey, man, he got a record number of votes, right, to win that election. A record number of votes. Speaking of the election, that's something we don't talk about too much, especially on YouTube. And that's why we're going to be live streaming with Fred on YouTube, and he's not going to be saying too much. That's why his microphone is muted. We don't want him to speak out of turn or say anything that might violate community guidelines on YouTube. And we're back on YouTube tonight, and I'm super grateful for everybody watching on YouTube. Hello, welcome back, YouTube. If you weren't aware, we were on a 1-week ban on the main channel. I'm afraid to even tell you why. They weren't really clear why, but we are back on YouTube now on the main channel. But we're going to be treating YouTube just a little bit differently because we don't want to get anybody upset. So we will be running less content on YouTube and pushing everybody over to Rumble, especially when we're talking about things that are not YouTube friendly. So if you haven't subscribed on Rumble at this point, please consider doing that. We really need you to move over there. The channel has been growing a lot, our main Rumble channel. Just look for Maverick News on Rumble. The link is in the description, I believe, on all of the platforms tonight, so you can find us over there. We're on Facebook as well. Facebook has been pretty good to us so far. No issues at all over on Facebook at any point over the past year. It's worth mentioning what we're doing here, though, because this censorship issue has been affecting a lot of streamers. YouTube went on a banning spree, a rampage over the past week or so. They got us. They got, I think they got Lori again. They got about 5 or 6 other people who are kind of in my sphere with bans. I spoke to somebody else just yesterday who is on a 1-week ban as well. It's a strange business model they have. Let's ban all the people, the content producers who come to us. And as I said, YouTube in some ways kind of risks, I think, becoming less and less relevant. Some of the most watched channels on YouTube now are channels that feature exactly this kind of content. Fish aquariums, burning fires, sounds of rainstorms that people fall asleep to. So we're going to make Fred a star. We're going to generate some views with Freedom Fred, the Freedom Fish. He's not going to say much, but he will entertain. It will be entertainment, not infotainment even, just entertainment when Fred is on. And that will also make some sort of a statement. We're on YouTube right now, and, we have a lot of viewers there, but yeah, we're going to be much more careful as we move ahead, especially with Bill C-11 and Bill C-18 and the anti-hate speech laws in Canada beginning to take root and grow. Censorship, huge issue, man. Huge issue. And so Fred will earn his keep by entertaining the masses. He will become an internet sensation, a freedom fighting superstar on YouTube. Don't go away.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So everybody is freaking out about central bank digital currency. Everybody's worried about it. And yet here we are looking at Commonwealth countries, including Canada, saying that they're going to put a picture of King Charles on hard paper money and on coins in some cases. So in Canada's case, it has been announced today that King Charles III will have his face plastered on Canada's $20 banknotes, as well as coins. So yeah, we're gonna get a whole new look to our money. I don't even like our money anymore. You know, it's like it isn't made of paper. Well, I think actually the old money was like a fabric, but now it's this plastic. It's hard to handle. I've never liked it. I like the old stuff. Anyway, that's an aside. So it's not clear when this is going to happen, but I'd say that's sort of good news, because if the government is saying that Canada's money is going to have the image of King Charles on it, that means that there will continue to be cash for at least a while. So let me just check here. The Bank of England has already revealed that they have a new design for its 5, 10, 20, and 50-pound banknotes. They'll all feature the king. Canada's redesign needs to be approved by the king. According to royal experts, it won't be the same imagery used by the Bank of England, though. Other Commonwealth nations, well, there are varying views on whether they'll use King Charles's portrait on their banknotes. The Reserve Bank of New Zealand is saying tonight that it will be replacing the late Queen's imagery with the king. In Australia, Queen Elizabeth II's imagery on their $5 banknote will be replaced with an indigenous design to honor the culture and history of the first Australians, that coming from the Reserve Bank of Australia. And in many Caribbean nations, they aren't even looking at this. They say that they're not interested in any discussions regarding this topic. They don't have any interest in redesigning their banknotes at this point. And in fact, in some of these countries, these Caribbean nations, they're severing ties with the monarchy. We've seen that in Barbados. I would say, based on what we're seeing, King Charles needs to be very careful. The entire royal family needs to be very careful. I don't think they have the support that they need to ensure long-term survival as the reigning sovereign. In Canada, maybe half of the people still support the monarchy. The other half seem to be in favor of severing ties. Canada already is its own sovereign nation. It is part of the Commonwealth. Yes, I know that the legislation still needs to have royal assent, and we go through that entire process. But, we're not that far removed from detaching ourselves from the monarchy. The United States severed ties a long time ago, right? 1776. And even though you're a king, even though you're not elected, even though you have maybe 1,000 years of history and tradition supporting your reign, you can't take anything for granted these days. The people, you need the support of the people. It doesn't matter if you are a king, a prime minister, a president, or a dictator. On some level, you always need the support of the people. You might not need the majority of the people to support you all the time, but if you don't have at least a healthy percentage, then your future, your existence, your existential, you're facing an existential threat if you don't have the support of the people. The people have more power than the people realize. I don't see overwhelming support for King Charles. And I don't think he is anywhere near as likable as the Queen was. That will only further erode support for the monarchy in the years ahead. They might be in a little bit of trouble. He might be in a little bit of trouble. That's the reality of that. Especially right now in Canada, man. After 3 years of government overreach and people upset, the entire country is on edge. It wouldn't take much. Wouldn't take much to take us to a place where we have serious change. Some people are seriously pushing for that. On to Ukraine we go. Reports tonight that anxiety about the safety of that huge nuclear power plant, the largest one in Europe that I mentioned the other day in that interview with John Mark Dugan, where we discussed the danger in that area because of shelling that was taking place there, with Ukrainian forces shelling the nuclear power plant. Obviously, a huge safety concern. And anxiety about that is growing in that region tonight after the governor of that area who is Russian because the Russians control that area right now, ordered civilian evacuations. They're telling people to get out of there. And even though I'll bring up a mainstream media report on this, here's ABC. And of course, they are pointing the finger at Russia. But the reality is it's Russia that's in control of that area, and it's the Ukrainian forces that have been shelling the nuclear power plant. International Atomic Energy Director General Rafael Grossi has spent months trying to persuade Russian and Ukrainian officials to establish a security zone around the nuclear power plant in Zaporizhzhia to prevent the war from causing a radiation leak. The evacuation orders by the governor have raised fears that fighting in the area might intensify. More than 1,500 people have been evacuated from 2 unspecified cities in that region as of tonight. And it looks like there might be more. It says here in this ABC report that Ukraine has regularly fired at the Russian side of the lines, while Russia, it says here, has repeatedly shelled Ukrainian-held communities across the river. The fighting has intensified as Ukraine prepares to launch a long-promised counteroffensive to try to reclaim ground taken by Russia. This is a huge concern. Can you imagine the disaster there? It would make the Chernobyl disaster seem insignificant in comparison, I think, because of the size of this facility. And why the Ukrainians would shell that thing or even shell anywhere near it is just ridiculously. I can't wrap my head around that. Why would anyone do that? That is insane. Absolutely insane. I mean, even I think you even run the risk of killing yourself if you're shelling that plant, because the equipment that they're using, they're not that far away. If they hit that thing and the wind is blowing in your direction, it would carry all kinds of radioactive material in your direction. You'd be exposed like everybody else. You're going to contaminate the whole area, make it uninhabitable. This war is just stupid. And that might not sound like a very intellectual thing to say, but it's just stupid. Bloody stupid. Now I'm going to talk about something that makes me wonder. This is an observation, and it's a question. It's not speculation because I don't have an absolute answer. But my guess is technology has progressed to such a point that marketing companies, the government, social media companies are using voice recognition software for marketing purposes. Right now, I am aware and I know how to do some what's called remarketing using cookies online. So if you look, you know how if you say you went to a car dealer website and you clicked on a 2015 Honda Civic in the used car part of a car dealer's inventory online. When you leave, if that website is set up effectively, they then track you around the internet because they have your cookies, right? And they can follow that trail of cookies, and they're going to follow you around the internet. And when you go to different websites where Google puts up advertisements, they'll put an ad up on your screen for Honda Civics. And maybe not even that dealer, but other dealers can start to market to you too. They don't know they're marketing directly to you, but Google knows, Facebook knows, these social media companies know if they've been part of the process. It goes into their database, and then they know that Google knows you're looking for a Honda Civic. That's extremely valuable information because you've clicked on it on one dealer. The other dealers want to sell you a Honda Civic too. So they then set up their ads and say they want to target consumers who are looking for Honda Civics in a certain year range with certain parameters. Google then delivers you as a consumer to that car dealer. It's pretty sophisticated stuff. So all the other dealers then start putting ads up for Honda Civics. And that's why you see then everywhere you go for a while, ads keep popping up for Honda Civics because they know you were looking for one. If you go to Amazon and you click on shower curtains because you want a new shower curtain, you'll see that ads for shower curtains pop up for a while everywhere you go around the internet. Amazon will advertise to you. Other companies start advertising shower curtains to you over and over and over again. Everybody wants to now sell you a shower curtain. I'm sure you've noticed it. But something very interesting has happened to me in the last week that I've just taken note of. And 2 nights ago, maybe it was even last night, somebody mentioned the word Sigma to me, Sigma male. I think it was Dragon during the call-in portion of the show. This is scary stuff. It was Sigma, just the word Sigma was spoken on the show. Within hours, I started receiving advertising messages in my email from companies trying to sell me products with the word Sigma in it. Not really related to what the subject matter was in the call, which wasn't about a product, but it seems to me that cannot be a coincidence. How did these companies know that I had spoken the word Sigma? And I do some photography and videography, of course. And so I do have some Sigma lenses, but I haven't purchased a Sigma product. And I have a Sigma flash for a DSLR camera, but I haven't purchased any Sigma products in probably 12 years. I haven't looked at any Sigma products. All we did was mention the word Sigma on the show, and bam, Sigma advertisements with products using the word Sigma in my email. Coincidence? I don't think so. Not that. It shows how sophisticated the technology has become. It's scary sophisticated. I don't know. Back to the money thing. I just want to comment on that again, too. If they're going to keep making money, like physical money, I think that's a great thing. I think that provides a higher level of freedom for people. It's important. And we've seen during the wildfires out in Alberta and BC that where there have been these fires in some of the communities, they don't have any power. And so people are coming into stores and they need to buy groceries and supplies, and they have to use old-fashioned hard cash in order to conduct the business. That's been the reality out there for the past couple of days. Darn good thing they have cash. I think that the government needs to really re-examine this central bank digital currency plan if it involves completely getting rid of paper and coins, because we're seeing right now there's an actual necessity for it. I'm encouraged to hear that they're going to put the king's face on bills and coins. It says that they're not giving up on the paper money and the coins, at least not right away. I think digital currencies also will make it far too easy for the government to simply create money out of thin air. At least with paper and with coins, they have to go through a process of manufacturing the stuff. And yet, being in business, I realized years ago that I can actually create currency. You can too. And you can do it legally, but you don't print it. You don't mint it. You know how you make currency? Debt. Just like a bank. You make money. This is why the economy actually collapses. When I started into business, when I started my own businesses, it took me a little while to kind of realize this was a strange little power that you have as a business owner, or even as an individual. You could do this, but businesses do it, and I think sometimes without even realizing they're doing it. When I give a customer, say 30 or 60 or 90 days to pay, what I'm actually doing is I'm creating money. It's true. It's money that has not yet been paid, right? It's like there's actual, I've created the wealth by creating the product, which someone has purchased. They just haven't paid for it yet. And so what I've created is an actual gap in the money supply. The currency is artificially there. I'm saying, yes, here's the wealth. I've made it. I know that you're good for the money. I'm creating this additional, I'm doing exactly what the government is doing, actually. When they purchase goods, they don't actually pay for them, right? They go into debt in exactly the same way. And how do they pay for it? Well, they print the money. I've created the wealth by doing the work to create the product or the service that was sold. So the wealth is there, and it is now being consumed by the person who purchased that. It just hasn't been paid yet back to me. And because I have debts, I need to get paid at some point. So the government has to make sure that there's enough money in the system printed to meet the current level of production so that the economy doesn't collapse. If they don't print enough money, if there isn't enough money in the economy circulating, the economy slows down. The guy who we'll say his name was Joe, he purchased my product or service, didn't pay for it. I gave him, say, 30 days to pay. If he can't come up with the actual cash to pay within 30 days, he defaults. If he defaults, now it goes to me. Now I don't have the cash. If I don't have the cash and I can't pay, then I default. And then it creates a chain reaction and people can't pay. And that's because there wasn't enough money in the system to pay. As the government prints more and more money, it floods the market. But if they print too much, then Joe can buy all kinds of goods and services. And it's more money chasing fewer goods. It drives prices up because you have more money chasing fewer goods and services. It's just I don't know. Maybe I'm boring the living crap out of you by talking about this. I think it's an interesting exercise to go through as a business owner, as an individual, even to understand that money it's not the paper. I mean, it is the paper, but the actual wealth of the country is what is produced. It isn't the money. That's just a means of exchange. And if the government doesn't manage the money supply properly, everything falls apart. If they print too much, it affects values in a way that it creates inflation. If they don't print enough, the economy collapses and you get a depression. It's a balancing act, and they need to get it right. If they don't, everything just goes to hell. That's kind of where we're at. Today, I was speaking to a friend who invests in real estate. And in this market in my area, we're already seeing a correction now because the government has been raising interest rates and they're beginning to restrict the money supply a bit, although they're still spending too much. But because they're raising the interest rates, it is beginning to have an effect on the economy. So housing prices in this area have in the last few months taken a beating. A correction is happening. The market is being manipulated by the government through its artificial control of interest rates. It's not a free market at all. Don't kid yourself. This is entirely a government controlled marketplace these days. Has been probably through my lifetime. We don't have a true free market. The government manipulates everything through interest rates and the money supply. And it's not them producing anything. It's controlling, conditioning you, getting you to they're getting you to behave. They're modifying your behavior through the money supply, interest rates, and taxation. So housing prices have taken a big hit. So a house that he was telling me he bought a house around here for about $450,000 a few years ago. It went up. He said he easily could have sold it just a few months ago for about $800,000, maybe $900,000. And the market now, today, as it sits, he'd be lucky to get 6. And then because of the interest that he's paying, he says that the rate of return for him as an investment, using real estate as an investment, is actually not very good now because he's had to service that debt. The cost of the money has risen. The cost of the money used to borrow. And so the marketplace, the real estate market is undergoing a big correction. It's experiencing downward pressure now. That in itself, you see, this is volatility that we're seeing. And that in itself causes problems too, because now you see some people who have gone out and because the prices were rising and rising and rising, they were speculators. They got in when the interest rates were low and the prices were rising. And now the interest rates are jacking up and some people are going to get into trouble. And that could potentially cause all kinds of problems too. When you have big price increases and then a collapse like this, a lot of people, some people end up losing a lot instead of gaining. They think they're gaining and gaining. They get in too late and then they suffer. That can cause serious economic problems as well. And even though the real estate market is experiencing downward pressure, that's because of interest rates, but we're still seeing huge price increases at the supermarket and on other consumer goods. So you'll see this kind of strange report, I think, come out the next time we see, within the next report coming up within the next 30 days on inflation, consumer price index. It's going to have some real skewed stats in there. It'll look like inflation is coming down, and that's because real estate prices are being suppressed, but it won't be an accurate reflection for the true cost of living for people. And I think this will hold true not just in Canada, but in the US as well. And we saw just in the last couple of days that on the US side, the jobs market not looking good at all, really. And I think that's actually what the government has been shooting for. I don't agree with the approach. I don't like what they're doing to get inflation under control. They're actually increasing unemployment. Because in their view, and we've heard them talking about this, we saw the head of the Fed talking about it here 2 days ago. We have running the clips of him. saying, that they need to slow the economy down in order to rein in inflation. And yeah, you can get prices to collapse or to correct or to come down. I hate to use the word correct, but they can bring inflation under control, wrestle the increases, pull them back, or even create deflation by slowing the economy down. But that results in a lot of suffering for people. That's a degrowth economic platform policy. I don't agree with that. If you want, after increasing the money supply, to rein in inflation, you need to increase production and increase productivity at the same time. Keep people working, put even more people to work. But they need to be productive. You need to increase your productivity through the use of technology, economies of scale, and not just by throwing a lot of government money at it. That creates more inflation too. You need productivity. Grow your way out of the problem and keep people working so that people don't suffer, and keep them working so that they don't end up just in a line for bread and handouts and more government cash for free so that they don't starve to death. That just makes everything worse too. It puts the country into greater debt, and it requires even more money printing, which was the cause of the inflation to begin with. Just a little note, just an observation today in my conversation with my real estate investing friend, and that's at the local level, but I'm certain that the information I'm getting here will filter through and will apply to not just the Canadian economy nationally, but also on the US side for all of our American friends. So if you haven't seen it in your local market yet, look for, especially in Canada, corrections on pricing or downward pressure on pricing in the real estate market in the weeks ahead. Now, don't take my advice and go and invest your money based only on what I'm saying. I am not a professional money manager. I just want to make that very clear. If you're going to make any kind of investment decision, I encourage you to seek out the advice of an actual professional. Don't just take my word or advice or information and just run with that. Go get more information, educate yourself, and make your own assessment. I'm just offering my opinion. Yes, I've studied economics, but that doesn't mean I'm always right. Nobody ever really knows what the economy is going to do because we don't really know exactly what the government is going to do on any given day. All right, hang on. I'll be right back after this.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, I'm just kind of sifting through some stuff to see if I've missed anything truly important, and just a few headlines here. Documents have been signed. Syria is now a member of the Arab League again. That's within the last 12 hours. That post. Yeah, and I just did not mention yet this SUV driver who hit the crowd at a Texas bus stop near the Texas border. 7 people were killed. An SUV slamming into that crowd today. There were about 10 people there waiting at a bus stop outside a migrant shelter. This, according to Brownsville, Texas police. The director of the shelter, his name is Victor Maldonado. He says that he took a look at the surveillance video after receiving a call about the crash. And the SUV, which was a Range Rover, ran through a traffic light about 100 feet away and then drove through the crowd of people who were just sitting there at the bus stop. 7 people dead. The SUV flipped after running up on the curb and then slid for about 200 feet. There were some people walking on the sidewalk about 30 feet from the main group. Brownsville police said the crash happened about 8:30 this morning and did not know whether the driver intentionally hit the people, so this is still under investigation. The driver taken to hospital for injuries after it again flipped over and slid. No passengers in the vehicle. The driver, according to police, is being very uncooperative at the hospital. But after being treated, they say this person will be transported to the city jail as soon as he is released. At which point they say they'll fingerprint him, take a mug shot, and then they can figure out exactly for sure who this person is. At this point, I don't have a name. And here's an image of the SUV that was involved in that incident. And you can see that it must have been moving at a pretty high rate of speed. It didn't just flip over on its side. It looks like it rolled. The hood all bent, driver's side door all caved in, the roof collapsed. Not completely collapsed, but certainly all bashed in, the windshield smashed out. It obviously suffered severe damage to the whole driver's side of the vehicle. And 7 people dead. Anyway, I'm going to run a promo while I set up the, let's say hi to Fred. Hey, Fred, how you doing, buddy? Where are you? There he is, way in the back. See him in the back there? Do you feel freer tonight, Fred? Now that you're out of your little cup. He probably doesn't know what's going on, but look at the beautiful fins on Fred. Look how beautiful he is. See him flipping away over there, flipping his flippers. All right. I'll be right back and we'll go to the phones.
Fear not the storm, for truth is on our side. Maverick News. The world is watching. Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
All right, the phone lines are open. Here's the phone number to call.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975. Free. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a Maverick. Join us.
All right, so hello, Fred. Welcome back. There's Fred. Time to go to the phones. Okay, here's Steve. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, Rick. How are you?
I am okay. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm not sure quite what it was you were saying, but you said something about the king or the monarch, and it triggered some thoughts in my head.
Sure.
And if you recall our very long discussion there a while back, this may surprise you, but I'm in favor of the system we have here in Canada. You know, some people want to switch over to a republic or whatever, but I think when our system works properly and works well, it works great. And this is kind of something I hadn't really thought about before, about the importance of the monarch, but you know, with the king being crowned and everything, it's something that's been on my mind. And as we know, our system doesn't seem to be functioning all that great at this time. But it wasn't set up at this time, nor was the monarch and keeping the monarch in place. However, I think that, I think the king is out of touch. And as you mentioned earlier, this might have been what triggered me here. The power that the people have, like behind him, when the people are in favor, that's the power for someone like the king or whomever.
Yes.
And if we were to remove the monarch, and I was kind of ambivalent about this before, but if we were to remove the monarch, we would be losing the longevity of a system that would be in place. Now, remember, the king is supposed to be, first amongst equals, our representative.
Yep.
So ideally, he'd be here and he would not separate himself from us behind castle walls or whatever. He would know us well and be with us. But because of the length of a reign and intergenerational monarchies, the ideas of the people should be presented and represented by the king. I'm not sure about the presented, but they need to be at hand for the king. He should have a feel for the population, and he should be able to carry our will against, like this, the House or the Senate, or against the government.
Mhm.
And so the importance of having a monarch for somebody in England would probably be greater than for us here, because we don't get to see him. I know we have the Governor General, but I mean, I would much rather have one of the king's sons here, representing the monarch and mingling amongst us, getting to know the people and feel for the people, and carrying, the feel of the people for, decade after decade, if we're going to have a monarch, right?
Mhm.
And understanding us. And so when the government comes in, you might have left, you might have right, and they're only in for however many years at a time, for, let's say 4 years.
Mhm.
And it's an agenda driven thing, as opposed to the idea of the monarch who should represent the attitude of the people. Does that make sense? Did I get that out right?
Nope. Not for me. I kind of get the gist. I'm not really sure what you're saying. You're talking about basically continuity, consistency, stability.
That's a good word. Continuity. Sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, like, I think that one of the problems that Canada has, or that the monarch has had, is that they have, become so privileged and so far removed from the people.
Yes.
So the people are not, well, and the worst part of this is he has an agenda, right? And an agenda that we don't approve of. I don't know of a soul that approves of that agenda.
Yeah.
And he promotes it. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I didn't think this through well enough when I called, but he shouldn't be so far removed from us, and he should be able to relate with us and vice versa. And I think probably 300-400 years ago, actually, let's go back to, what is it, like 1065 or something, with Magna Carta. There was probably more of a relationship. I mean, he led the armies or whatever. Actually, that was not a good time, because who was it, John, and he lost, I think. But anyway, I'll have to rethink this and portray it. I think that.
Yeah. I
just
generally kind of agree with you. My biggest concern with the people who want to basically throw this system out is that they're not telling us what they're going to replace it with. Not really. And the concern I have, even for First Nations peoples, right? You get rid of this system. Where does that leave First Nations with their treaties that they've had with the Canadian government and the Crown? All that stuff,
I am so
potentially, all that stuff potentially gets swept aside, and then we have to go all the way back to the beginning, and now everybody is back at where we were when the first Europeans arrived here, and we have to revisit all these issues. And I would say at that point, First Nations peoples really have no protections as they enter into these negotiations, if indeed they're even negotiations at that point, because there's so much at stake. I wouldn't be surprised if that were to spark an actual war on many fronts as people fight to gain control and power in the country. That's why I'm not really in favor of dismantling everything, burning it down, saying screw you, king. Let's create a whole new system. I'm not in favor of it. And the other reason I'm not in favor of it is a lot of people keep looking to the US. They say we need a republic, just like, of the people, by the people, for the people. It's all US language. They're sort of copying what they see in the US Constitution. But when I look south of the border, they don't seem to have a better handle on the problems than we do. They seem to have exactly the same kinds of problems. Some of them they're worse off with, other ones they're a little bit better, but overall they're dealing with censorship. They're dealing with, the use of lawfare and their political system. They have the same criticisms of the system, saying that their vote doesn't count because they only have two choices, and it's really, they're both the same basically at the end of the day. And we hear the same arguments up here. So I don't see why people in Canada keep saying we need to have a republic like in the US, and they keep using that. For crying out loud.
Yeah. Well, you just said a whole lot there. If I'd like to comment on both of those points. Going back to the situation with Native Americans in Canada and the new treaties, and Native Americans in the States and their treaties. At what point has the government ever played fair with Native Americans or Natives anywhere? And this is going to be a partnership, right? This is not, oh, we're handing everything over to the First Nations. They are doing a partnership. So there's nothing that, as far as I understand it, that is going to happen without the partnership with the government anyway. And that sounds rife with problems to me. So it's not like they're saying, okay, we're going to set things back pre-Columbus, and you get to design all the way North America is going to be now. It's going to be the government and First Nations are going to partner up. And that also will mean on the resources. So it's just, to me, it's just a bigger money grab for, I think the treaties will get wiped out that they currently have, and the government will get a larger share of the money when on the new treaties. That's my thought. I haven't really looked into it, but it does concern me greatly.
Well,
and as far as whether or not we should be a republic, I was beginning to think maybe, some of these people that argue about having a republic as opposed to a democracy is, but I get it, 51% majority and 49% are unhappy. But like you said, it's a two-party system in the States. And there, here in Canada, technically, your rights, and my rights stop where yours begin and yours stop where mine begin. And if we respect that, we should be just as well off as they are, as far as I'm concerned. I haven't really seen the benefit of switching. I haven't found it yet. And I have not really enjoyed having the monarch over us because I don't see it as a benefit. Like I said before, the Commonwealth has not been a benefit to me in my lifetime, but I think it could be. And I think both of them could be if it was done right, but nothing seems to be working as it should these days. And that's my big concern about all this. And I don't know that it could.
Yeah, I think ultimately the biggest problem that we're facing in both Canada and the US is that our politicians, our governments have committed to a global or globalist approach where they're trying to synchronize their political goals, their social engineering goals, with the same goals of the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum, so that they're harmonized with all of these other countries. So it's a globalist approach, and I think we just need to be focused more on a national approach.
I believe that too. Nation states, yes.
Yes.
That's what's always made countries strong, and what made the whole global economy strong was the differences that we have, and we exploit them for our benefit and for the benefit of others. So, and here's, our government workers all think, they become so elitist, as they say, and across the world, they're no longer a part of the people, and we've allowed them to separate. Again, they are just us. They're there at our leisure, our pleasure. They have privileges granted by us. And elite is a descriptive word. I think if we look it up, it's probably an adjective. And I don't like that word at all. What are they elite at? You're an elite what? That's what I always say when someone says the word elite. It's not a noun in my books. It's a descriptor. And I know what kind of elite I think they are. And I'm not going to say it here. I'd rather, not curse on your show. But they're elite something, and it's not elite great.
Okay. I'm not sure what to say about that. Just it's kind of an open-ended statement, I guess.
Yeah, no, it was. Elite to me is just not a noun. It's a descriptive word, right? You're an elite athlete. You're elite something.
Mm-hmm.
What are these people elite at? To me, they're elite trash. They're elite trash. That's it. So anyway, and anyone who calls himself elite is identifying themselves as trash. So
yeah. Okay, Steve, anything else you want to add before we move on?
No, I appreciate the time, Rick, and I'm sorry that wasn't more thought out before I called. Maybe if I can pare it down into a couple of sentences with more coherence, I will. But anyway, thanks for the time as always. Appreciate it, Rick.
Yeah,
Have a good night.
my pleasure. Thank you. Okay, I'm not sure who this is. Is it Pam?
Hello. This is Mrs. Fred. It's Mrs. Fred. Happy. My mommy, Dom Tom. She showed me him on TV. We were separated, and we're long. Well, although we like our separate little dwelling rooms and spaces because we can fight a little bit, we met in Thailand in the rice paddies, and we were playing hide and seek, and I found him. He's the love of my life.
Well, I have to be very careful about what we do with immigration. Given that Fred here is a Siamese fighting fish, I best not put another Siamese fighting fish in there. They will fight, and one of them, or maybe both of them, would end up dying. So these are.
Well, I know it can get a little tough at times. But I do miss him. Just let him know that. I do miss him so much.
Well, you can tell him yourself. He's on the screen right now. He's listening.
And we even have some children. Let him know. I was pregnant when he left. He got captured, and I got captured. We got taken away, and I have 7 children, and I don't know where they are now.
So, for people who don't understand what this is about, I'm going to be making a political statement on YouTube with this aquarium. We're creating. Well, first of all, it's just a way of saying that on YouTube, because we went through that ban, everybody has to be super careful about everything they're saying, and YouTube is sort of rendering itself irrelevant within the sphere of political debate and social debate. So to be safe, we're just going to put up Freedom Fred in his new environment. And then, because we're doing this, we're going to try to create a utopian society for Fred. And we're going to explore all of these different social issues over time as we develop this community. If indeed we even can create a community for Fred within this new society, this aquarium that we have set up. So it's going to be a social sciences learning exercise, a journey that we will take together. That's what this is going to be. This is all sort of a metaphor, symbolism, just a different way to look at all of these issues that we need to examine, as some people are even looking at trying to create a whole new country, which is kind of what we were talking about with Steve, right? Maybe tearing the whole system down, getting rid of the monarchy, and creating in Canada maybe a republic instead of a dominion, and seeing where that goes. But we can explore these things together. So anything else you want to add tonight, Pam, as you contemplate things?
Yes, as Mrs. Fred, I have to tell you, we like living in our own little separate areas, and we had little homes of our own, and we got together when we wanted to, and we loved each other very, very much, and we ate off the land, and we prepared our own food. Well, we didn't prepare it. There was things in the rice patties, but that's all I want to say. But tell him I love him, and I'll watch him here, and I'll just live in my big aquarium. I've got a big one. It's very spacious, and I can swim around and have lots of fun. And my mommy loves me.
Here's an actual serious question for you. Do you think that, you see, right now Fred's all alone, so he's sort of in solitary confinement there, and he doesn't understand what's going on, obviously. But should we need to entertain the idea of maybe introducing more citizens to this new country we've created for Fred? But the question is, should we? And if we do allow immigration, what species of fish do we let in? And if we restrict immigration, are we being racist?
Well, we live with water snails, and we live with large shrimp, and we have no problem. But if you put other certain fish near us, we'll attack them. We don't want them in our environment.
Well, that's it. I mean, if you're looking at fish, certain species of fish don't get along with other species of fish. In this case, even another Siamese fighting fish, they might fight and kill each other. So that wouldn't be maybe such a great idea to do that to Fred. A lot of other kinds of fish, if I were to put tiger barbs in there, they'd nip at his fins until he was dead. So if I allow that kind of immigration to happen, Fred will end up extinct. If I allow, just about anything else to go in that tank, there are only very few kinds of fish that I could put in that tank that would be compatible with him. And even then, I would need to be careful. And then there are all these other issues, like how much of a population increase can we allow in a tank of that size? Because the resources in this particular case are finite, right? There's only so much space, and Fred needs a certain amount of space in order to function and grow as a fish and survive. If we allow too much immigration, he could end up dying. The other fish could end up dying as well. So these are questions that we need to ask. And if we're looking at it on a human level and what goes on with our own country, should we just open the borders and allow people from any other part of the world, other countries, to come in here? Is there any similarity between the human immigration and what we would get in an aquarium? Are there certain cultures, say, that are compatible or incompatible with others? And this is something that I think some people wrestle with. Or are humans different because we have the intellectual capacity to go beyond what Fred can do and just act out of instinct or conditioning through nature? We can go beyond that and get past our lizard brain and cooperate and live in harmony together, even if we don't have share the same religion or share the same culture or the same worldviews. And we may look at everything in a completely different way than our neighbor, but at least we can get along. Or is that actually the case? These are questions that I think we need to explore and ask. And this is an opportunity to look at exactly those kinds of issues before we introduce, or we go through the process of deciding whether we even should introduce any other fish into this community and allow immigration. What do you think, Pam?
It's not Pam. It's Mrs. Fred. My mommy is down, Pam. Okay, and Mrs. Fred. We live in an environment where there's lots of places to live and hide, and we have little rooms, and it's all marshy, and there's all sorts of fresh water coming in with the rain that we live on, and we live on the oxygen on the surface and in the water, but we can't live closely together all the time in our homes, because we really don't have, it's a one big home in the area that I live in. But Fred, when he met me, there was another fighting fish there, and he got rid of it. And then we mated.
Okay.
And so then we had babies, and I looked after them. He took off, and that's when we were separated.
Oh, he's a deadbeat dad.
Well, I don't know. I think he might have been taken away by someone. I don't know, because I got taken away too. So it's I don't know. I'm just a little sweet little fish, but we bite. We fight. I mean, if he bothered me too much, I'd let him know. and might not turn out good. He might, just not be happy and do something, or I might not be happy and do something. We have to be happy.
So what are you looking for? Child support?
I want my children back, and I'm very content at looking at Fred on the screen. You know, Mummy said that she might get me another male fighting fish and put him in a separate aquarium so we can look at each other.
Well, you may
and maybe
you
she's
may have
going to
noticed that
turn
I
it-
have a truck in there, right? Because he's a freedom fish, and he's, of course, he has a truck, a freedom truck. He's a freedom trucker, a truck driving.
I know
fish.
my mommy got me a little castle with a draw moat, and I swim through the draw moat, and I love it. It's so much fun to play.
Okay.
So I'll just say I'll leave it for now, but I want to go play in my castle. I have my rooms all in there, and I swim throughout them, and I go through, and the drawbridge opens up from one end and goes right through to the other end of the castle.
Okay. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it, Mrs. Fred. Well,
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, see you. The number to call tonight, folks, and we can talk about anything you want. Not just Fred. 1-833-975-3733. 1-833-975-3733. Let's go to go take a little break here while we catch our breath and get ready for the next caller.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975-FREE. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a Maverick. Join us.
We are Mavericks. We say no to the Trudeau and Biden New World Order. And to bugs. Because bugs are creepy and gross. And people should not eat bugs. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Let's move on and speak with Lynn. How are you tonight?
Hello.
Hi.
How's it going? I want to talk about your Fred.
Okay.
Actually, you would have to remove him from your tank.
Oh.
Just a second. I have to mute my stupid thing.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. Done. Okay, so you have to remove your fighter from the tank. Actually, I used to put them in my aquarium. I had a freshwater tank.
Uh-huh.
I had plecostomus and sharkfish at the bottom, the small ones with the red fins.
Yeah.
And then I had tiger barbs in the middle. I had angelfish on top. And I had some other gouramis.
Right.
You have to introduce all those fish separately because they go by layers.
Mm-hmm.
The plecostomus at the bottom, and he does the glass. And then you got the tiger barbs about an inch or so off the bottom. And then it goes up, 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 up. Angelfishes are on top. When you introduce your fighter fish, you can actually do 2 at a time, which I did, but you have to put them in at the same time. Now, everybody has their territory, so it makes it very difficult for them to invade the other's territory. And they lived happily. It was great.
Okay.
So just an idea for you.
So you say I have to remove the fish from the tank?
Yes. Remove your fish from the tank. He has to be the very last. Like once you get your others in there and your layers happening of different freshwater fish, then that's the last ones because they're fighters, they're territorial. You would never be able to introduce a fish right now. But if he's last, then it's okay. He has to be last.
Okay. Didn't know that. That's interesting.
And then, but don't introduce anything from, like, you know, outside waters. My son put tadpoles in and killed my entire tank.
Tadpoles?
Yeah.
Turn into
He thought he was
frogs.
being sweet.
They'll turn into frogs.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he just put, he thought he'd be nice by feeding them tadpoles, you know, and yeah, killed my tank.
Okay. Yeah, well, we have to be
But,
careful
you know,
here. We're
we're
turning
talking
this into an
fish, like
aquarium.
actual fish.
Yeah, we're turning this into an aquarium show. I was hoping we'd have more of a philosophical, political discussion using the tank as a catalyst for debate and.
Oh, I wasn't doing that.
I know.
I'm trying to de-stress from the
really good aquarium advice.
No, I was just trying to de-stress from all watching Trudeau and all that other stuff today. And I just can't, I'm just amazed. Yeah, things are changing quicker.
Yeah. Well, there's.
I don't know how to say it. I don't want to get you in trouble because, like, I get stressed out through all this.
Yeah, it's okay. I understand. Yeah, I think Fred.
Yeah, because we. Yeah, I'm just like concerned about my property. You know, my house. The fact that is my husband going to lose his job, which he still has to work at 65.
Yeah. So,
you know, I have a lot of concerns, and I enjoy watching the show. We watch it every day. But for me to say something, I don't want to get you in trouble.
Well, I appreciate that.
So I actually talked real fish.
Well, that's therapeutic in itself. And if, you know, watching an aquarium is kind of soothing, right? It's therapeutic.
Yeah, well, we used to park. The kids wouldn't watch TV. They were restricted on the amount they were allowed to watch. Yeah. And we'd line up the chairs in front of the aquarium and literally sit there for hours going, I wonder what they're doing. So we create stories.
Well, people need to de-stress because there's a lot of, how can I put this? I just people
garbage.
Well, yeah, and people just I think need to just de-stress, like you said, and dial it back a little bit and turn it off. Basically, is what I'm trying to get at. You know, turn off the TV, turn off all the social media feeds, and just look at a fish for a while. Let clear out your.
I know, you know. Yeah, that's good. But you know what I did after the ice storm we just had, because like both the properties next to me, they're lined with maples. Yeah, I got the brunt of it. So I went out and bought. I'm 6 years old. Bought a chainsaw, and I'm just like, oh yeah. I'm imagining this log to be, you know who, and I started cutting off parts. And you know, after 20 minutes, I felt good, like real good at 60. And I'm just like, man, I should have gotten one of these when I was 20.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how intellectual this conversation is on that level, but I'm enjoying it. It's,
well, you know, just with all this and being in full blown menopause, you know, I need somewhere to de-stress, and chainsaw is like, fantastic. I don't know why I've never bought one before. Because I have a crap load of tools.
You know what?
You know, I could build a house. I used to build houses for a living. You know, so it's like, I never bought a chainsaw. Like, what's wrong with me?
I got something today, and I wanted to tell everybody about it because I was so excited. Hang on, don't go away. Fred will entertain you for like 30 seconds while I run off camera. Hang on.
Yeah. I actually talked fish with him. but they were using it as totem, and I wasn't getting it. And I go, no. When
I gotta put my
when I hear fish, I just get so calm.
All right,
and on top of that, I'm a water person, so like I'm a Pisces, and I feel calmness around water.
Can you hear me now? Okay, I'm back.
Yes, I can.
All right. So I got this. You see this? It's a plastic bag. I'm so excited.
Well, I can't see the bag.
Yeah, well, it's, here I am on camera and I'm holding it up, right? Because you're on the phone, but I'm holding it up.
Oh, there it is.
It's a plastic bag, okay?
Yeah.
I obviously I don't get out much, so I'm not a fun date. But I was out buying stuff for Fred today. He needed a heater, so I got him a heater. I went to the pet store and I went to the dollar store and I got a plastic bag. Do you know why that's a big deal? They were supposed to ban
No, because
these
yes, I still get plastic bags. The corner store in my village where we live here, it's all plastic bags.
So I'm not clear
and
on
not
this.
the cheap ones either.
Where weren't they supposed to ban them completely?
Yes.
But they're still there. I got one. I got two today, actually. I got one at the pet store and I got one at the dollar store. They said, "Do you want a bag?" And I went,
wow.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you made my day.
And even I went to the gas station. Yeah, I went to the gas station in Monkland and got a plastic bag.
Yes. So I'm like, right on.
It's just the odd.
Screw the government.
The odd little
Give me
store.
my plastic bag. And I suck at shopping now. Okay, I suck at it because every time I go to the grocery store, I never take a bag and they don't have any bags. And I'm like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah, you got to put it all back in your basket and just dump it in your car. I know that. But I have, I keep those, I don't know if you have them out there, the plastic buckets you get at the grocery store with the hand straps.
Yeah.
Like, I love those things because I put tools in there too. So like they're multi-use for me.
Right.
And if I have to move things from, being a woman, I rather carry it all at once, just like, I'm at my workshops in the basement. I grab whatever I need, stick it in a bucket, put it back in the van when I'm done. And I'm off to the grocery store, grab the buckets, and there I go.
Well,
so I avoid the whole mess. I've been doing that for years.
So I'm not sure what to make of that. Like, is this a situation where the government passed this? I think it's a law. You're not supposed to have these things. They've banned them. So you're not supposed to be able to buy them. Single-use plastic products. That's these things. And yet today I go into a store and people are still using them. And I'm like, well, right on, people. Use them if you want them. If you don't want to use them, you just say no. That's choice. To me, it's not a single-use item anyway. I'm going to use this thing I use them for a lot of different things. So they're very, very useful.
Yeah. Well, I stopped caring about that because when I go put my garbage in my bin, because that's what I used it for, and I don't think it's necessary to put a plastic bag of garbage in a green bag of garbage.
Yeah.
I have a pail.
Yeah.
You just take the pail and dump.
Yeah.
But no, I have to put it in a green bag or they don't take anything. So I thought this happened to us many years ago. And that's when I started just like, okay, I'm not taking any bags. I use the buckets because it's sheer stupidity for me that I have to put a bag inside of a bag.
Yeah.
Especially I have a can, so why not just dump it from the can?
Yeah. Well, you have to rinse your can out every once in a while when you do it that way. But otherwise, I totally get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the hose is right there, and I am married, and that's his job.
I got a plastic bag. I got two of them today, Justin. And this, I know you're still trying to drink your water out of a water bottle drink box thingy, but I got a plastic bag.
No, but wasn't that the whole fight a long time ago? Like when we were younger, you and I, we're not that far apart. When they went to the plastic bag and away from the paper, save the forest, save the forest.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, cut down the forest. You know, to me, you're just switching stuff again.
See, I was at
It makes no
Walmart
sense.
about, I don't go there very often either, but I was at a Walmart like 2 months ago whenever this thing was going on. And I go in and they're like, they had no bags. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I got to carry my, so they said, you want a paper bag? All right, I'll have a paper. And then they give me this piece of crap paper bag. I put the stuff in there. I pick it up and the thing just just shred, and everything fell out all over the floor. What is this?
Yeah, well, I'm already upset with the self-checkout, you know.
Yeah.
And the price is supposed to be paid for employees, then an employee should be there. And it's a social thing, too, so it's nice.
Yeah. Well,
I have to swear at a computer.
I still have to pay a person to stand there. And I'm like, if I use the self-checkout thing, because I'm like, hey, I need you to come over and help me. So they still have to have somebody there. I guess.
They always walk over because every time that computer talks, I go, I'm not stupid. Shut up. Just like, shut up, computer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or it's like, you're scanning 4 items like at a grocery store, like Metro does this to me all the time. 4 items. And then I need the guy to come put his code in because I'm putting it back in my basket because they're bigger items. Yeah. I'm not going to put it on the side. I'm not stupid. So I'm just like, don't go away. Stand right there while I do your job and scan everything. And every 4th one, put your little paper code in there.
Well, listen,
it's kind of ridiculous.
I'm going to get you to wrap up because I've got a couple of callers in the queue here.
Okay.
All right.
I'm good.
All right.
I just wanted to talk fish because it relaxes me. Thank you.
That was fun. I appreciate the call.
Not code fish, but real fish.
I understand. That was fun. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to our next.
It was nice seeing you again there. It's hard to find you on Rumble.
Yeah, we're up there.
I have a hard time.
Yeah, we're there. You just got
but I only can see your show the next day.
Did you subscribe?
So I'm having a hard time doing that.
Oh, well,
I did it on my tablet, but I can't do it on my TV for some bloody reason. I don't know. I'm just not that tech savvy. I'm going to get my son over to do it. And I mean, he's a computer genius dude.
Once you subscribe, then you'll get the notification, and then you should just be able to click right on it, and it'll take you right to the video. So
cool.
That'll make it easy for you. Yeah. Thank you for watching, and thanks for calling in.
Well, thanks a lot, Rick, and be safe.
Yeah, you too, and thanks for the fish advice. Okay, we've got Timber up. Hello, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Rick. How's yourself?
I'm okay. What do you want to talk about? Wildfires?
That's good. Yeah, I was going to talk about the wildfires, but a couple other points. Caller Stephen was talking about the elites. I choose to call them the deletes now. It's more of an action word, and it seems to be what's going on.
Yeah, careful. We are on YouTube, so just caution you. Just if you could just make sure you keep that in your mind as you proceed.
Okay, I'm done with that subject. On paper bags, I think the paper bags net is more a municipal level right now. I'm on an island on the west coast, and some of the cities still have plastic. Some of them don't. The one I'm in, we don't even have utensils that are plastic anymore. They're made out of wood. Right, so the trees are definitely going. And what I've seen, because I've been in the bush timber traveler for decades, picking and foraging, I've seen a lot of forests be destroyed, both by logging, by bugs, and by forest fires. And in the last 10, 15 years, as I pick morels, which grow the following year in a wildfire area, I've noticed that the timbers and the ashes and everything has changed. And I don't know if it's things falling that's from the sky, being blown above us. Probably is some of it, but I think a lot of it is part of the plan as well. On the island that I live on, we have a few quarter-hour communities building up, right, or districts, if you want to call them. And I'm looking at the wildfires in Alberta and where the evacuees are being sent to, and they're all being sent to places that are going to be quarter-hour districts in the future. So what better way of getting the comfortable country living lifestyle out of your system by burning around it or burning through it, maybe even taking out your town, And while you're in these large urban centers, your house and everything you own, your livelihood, your
So
job.
you're trying to tell me that they've set these fires on purpose, all these fires, because they want to corral everybody into 15-minute cities?
I'm not saying all of them, but okay, here's an experience I had 6 years ago. I was up on the eastern foothills of the Rocky Mountains, and I had a friend who was a firefighter with a crew of 6 guys. They were fighting this fire on a hillside for about 6 days. They finally got it toned down when a British Columbia Forest Service truck pulls up, and this guy comes out and he's got this little torch and starts lighting a few little fires. Right. So they take down his number. They take down the number of the truck because it had a Canadian registration number on it and everything. And they found out that his actual job for BC Forest is called an igniter. Okay. Now it's actual, can be looked up, can be researched, what have you. Right. So that's what kind of put me onto this idea, that some of this is probably, done through that way as well. Right. I mean, I know about these and things like that, but whether it's all from the one source, I doubt it. Right?
So you think that the government is going around and they have guys that they're paying to intentionally set these fires because it's all part of a 15-minute city plan?
Well, I believe to an extent that's part of it, right? And I believe it's bigger than government, right? Like it's the governments are puppets, right? Pretty much.
Can you, do me a favor, let's dial it back for a second. Here's what I need you to do.
Yep.
If you're going to come on here and make these kind of claims, I need you to produce some facts and some evidence to support that.
Okay.
I know that there are people out there who set fires for the government because they're involved in things like prescribed burns. And in addition to that, yes, when they're fighting fires, forest fires like this, they might actually set some fires to create a break wall so that the fires,
they do,
right? They do things like that.
Yeah.
But all I've heard over the last couple of days is a lot of crazy conspiracy whack job things from people who make all these crazy claims, including what you're saying, honestly, and I'm going to be quite blunt with you, without any proof whatsoever, which really screws with people's minds at a time when some people are struggling with mental health issues. And they're so paranoid that they turn everything into a bloody conspiracy, every bloody thing.
Right.
And so we have people who call up here now, they're afraid of lampposts, and they're now convinced that all these fires are being set intentionally by the government because they have nefarious
I'm not saying that. I'm saying some. And it is a hypothesis. I agree, right? And I'm not being paranoid. I'm not trying to be a
so if this is a hypothesis, I need you to come in here and present some actual evidence and facts, because all you're doing here is scaring the shit out of people, frankly.
Okay. Well, it needs to be looked at though, too, right?
Why?
I mean, it does.
When you get some facts, I understand that there are some people out there who are arsonists. That can be the case. And maybe some of these fires were set intentionally. And maybe investigations will reveal information about that. But until somebody comes to me with some actual proof that the government is sending people around in a bunch of trucks, intentionally setting all these fires because they're trying to fuck people over, I don't really want to hear about it.
But I didn't say it.
So give me
I didn't say a bunch of people.
This is exactly the stuff that I told people was happening. I'm getting people calling me saying exactly the shit that you're trying to feed me right now. And I'm just not going to sit here and eat it because it's not true.
Well, I eat shit every day and pretend it's gourmet as well. And I understand, right? I'm not saying it's factual. I'm saying
then
this is what I heard, and it's a hypothesis.
Conspiracy theories. If it's an actual conspiracy, then give me some bloody facts. But I don't really want to deal in conspiracy theories, because this is all just scaring the shit out of people. And honestly, listen to me, just hang on just a minute. This is so bad. It's so bad that I have people calling up, frankly, who want to do crazy ass things because of the narrative that you're spinning on this show right now. And it would be incredibly irresponsible of me to let you continue without challenging you on this, because I know what you're saying is just a theory that is just scaring the shit out of people, and you don't have a single freaking fact to support anything that you're saying right now. where with
But I
regard
do
to the
have some
government and
facts.
setting these fires intentionally because they want to corral people or force everybody into 15-minute cities. You're trying to you're conflating one thing with another, and you don't have anything to back it up at all. You get me some goddamn proof.
Okay, so you don't believe that weather manipulation, all of that is connected whatsoever, that it's all individual, separate things that are going down right now? Is that correct?
Get me some proof. Until then, you know,
Okay.
I'll tell you what, you go get me some proof and you bring it back. And I mean real proof, not some freaking flip job video that you find on YouTube. Go get me some hard evidence, okay? And so for now,
Okay.
we're going to move on to the next caller, but thanks for calling.
Okay.
I'm not interested in bullshit. I'm not interested in people calling up here, again, hijacking the show with all this QAnon bullshit. Bloody gut.
Hello.
I saw some people. Hello, how are you tonight? But hang on a second, folks. Again, I saw some people in some white trucks, and I was driving by at 100. I watched the freaking video of that guy. I know who I was driving by, and it was at 100K, and I saw him lighting fires. I don't have any proof, but this is what it is. The government is oh, for crying out loud.
Is this go along with Fuck You Friday? Is this Go to Hell Sunday?
It's gonna have to be fuck you every fucking day if it turns into this shit, because I'm just this is hurting people. Okay.
Well,
this is really hurting people because it's so freaking bad that I have people calling me on my personal line. Rick, did you know that the government is in and they're doing this and they're setting all those fires? The government did it on purpose. Do you really believe that?
Yeah, I believe that people should be more scientifically educated, Rick. You know, it goes back to what I was saying to you not too long ago about the population. So use the population, people. You know, you got more wood products being produced on mass scale on big open ranges of property. We have them down south here. And some of these woods and some of these areas where these plant growths are put, these are tree systems that are somewhat, in a lot of cases, more vulnerable to a fire, which means that there's really no breaks in between them. There's thousands and thousands of tree farm acres of spruce and soft woods in Canada and birch. You know, you watch the fishing shows and the guy's going to make a fire and he goes and what's he do? He goes and finds a birch tree and he takes the dry bark off and he makes a fire with a spark. You know, people don't really understand wood's flammable, you know. But I really just wanted to talk about Fred for a second, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Fred, your fish.
Yeah.
I'm just going to I'm holding you to your words here, Rick. You say Fred's a protesting, truck driving fish, right?
Well, I think he's a pro trucking, pro freedom trucker fish. He likes truckers and he likes freedom. So I thought we better put a truck in there for him. So now he has a truck. I
was just saying, you know, I didn't see anything on there about Trudeau, you know.
Not yet. Not yet. I was giving some thought.
And don't put a horse fish in there because it's liable to run Fred down. That's all I'm saying.
That's true. You got to be careful of those things, right? Yeah.
But, you know, people get nervous. I hear some earlier conversations about this fiat currency things, you know.
Yeah.
You know, the money is where you put it. If you keep your money in your pocket, great. If you want to run down and grab your cash out of the bank because you think the bank's crashing, great. But ultimately, if the value of that money falls, I've got a really good friend of mine. She was a dentist that was from Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
and she was making way above a six-figure a year income in Venezuela. But it's like I heard somebody say this. Guy goes to the sandwich shop to buy a sandwich with a whole wheelbarrow full of money. The wheelbarrow is so full of money that he can't get it through the door.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes inside, gets his sandwich, comes out. Well, his wheelbarrow is gone, but his money's still sitting there.
Yep, that's
The
right.
fact is no matter what you do, I hear people just. I think that we have what it takes to solve it. But if you go out here and say, "Hey, I got 2 pounds of gold or 10 pounds of silver," the fact of the inflation rate, it's going to cost just as much inflation on your investments that you made in your gold and your silver as it did in your fiat currency. It's not going to do anything for anything. It's going to, a loaf of bread is going to cost the same amount no matter what it is. But there was a real interesting guy that I follow. I'm not going to say his name, but he's real sharp when it comes to the banks and the money and all of what's going on. But way back last September, 700 banks were due to fail in September of last year. Well, that number's staying somewhere between 400 and 430 banks due to fail, which we're up on stage now for a couple of more major banks to fail. But the intention behind the Fed is it's that if they're going to keep printing money and they're wanting more interest on the money that they're printing, it's a way for the big, huge banks to consolidate. And if people don't understand, there's only so many banks and they own the federal bank. So whenever the big banks completely buy out and demolish all of the lower banks, then they'll have their way with it. You know, their interest rate is going to be what it is, like it or not. It's out of from what I'm seeing, it's out of the control of the local banks. Like you said, we need credit, we need finance. That's what makes our world go round, you know. But as far as people,
interest rates are actually set by the central banks, so it's not really set by like the CIBC or whatever, right? Like they have once the main rates are set, they can charge various interest rates for the products that they attach, but the
and the interest rate, the home mortgage banking rates right now are anywhere, they're down 33% across the board. Goes back to, again, whenever I said a dollar's worth somewhere around 38 cents due to the inflation. Well, that's going to hell. You know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I like to read facts, you know, the cold hard facts about this stuff. But it's fallen more into the people. The same happened in 1929 and in 2008. We've been operating on a zero interest rate now for some time, which means that 50% of 700 banks, 50% of those banks is already coming up to the table with losses.
Yeah, listen, we're up to almost 6 minutes here, so I need to get you to wrap up.
Well, anyways, I'll go back to Fred the Fish, man. You know, I hope him the best. You know, I do think that you know, if he's a protester fish, he probably needs his own little group of protesters in there. You know, I don't know what kind of fish those would be, but I'll let you use your best judgment.
All right. Well, we can explore that in the days ahead. protesting
Yeah.
fish. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for the call,
it
sir.
was great to thank you for the call, Matt. I'll talk to you later.
You betcha. Okay, here's the man without a plan.
The master of all disasters, Rick. I'm coming to you live. Watching this Toronto game. It's 2-2, third period. Toronto loses. Oh my God. Toronto's going to go crazy. They will riot. I've seen it before. I was in Vancouver when it happened. But back to the big story. The big story is the fires. Now, I get it. People are trying to say, oh, it's the government starting these fires.
Yeah.
I know for a fact, Rick, that people do start fires, okay? And the reason why, it's economically for their own benefit, okay? Say you're in a town where there's no work, this and that, okay? And I know natives. I know a lot of natives that have started fires because they're the ones who get the call to put it out. And it's big money to put these fires out. And another thing, I don't know if you knew this, but this is true, okay, especially in BC, the federal prisoners, okay, once they get run down from maximum to medium to minimum security, okay, there's camps, okay, that train federal inmates to put out fires. Okay, that's their job, right? So it is what it is. I don't know the stats. How many of these fires are going on in the U.S.?
I don't know.
Because we only see the
good question.
Right along that borderline with BC, Alberta, Manitoba, okay, where the fires are going on. Just look and see if it's happening on the U.S. side too, right? But a lot of people, when the economy goes down, they find a way to get paid, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes that's
See,
like
now
that everywhere. You can live
that's
in
a
the
real
city.
thing. We know that happens. That's a true thing. There are arsonists, as I agree with you. Like sometimes some people do set these fires intentionally.
I see it in the cities, okay, when the economy's down and businesses aren't making money, they torch the fucking place to get paid from the insurance, right? That's been going on forever since the days of the insurance broker. Okay, that happens, right? But the other big story is this: Ukraine. Now, I was watching you on Rumble, but I didn't hear you mention anything about China trying to broker the peace deal. Did you see that on the news? Zelensky talked with Z for a few hours today. For a few hours, not a 10-minute meeting, a few hours, okay? And China's going to intervene and do a peace deal. I will laugh so hard if China does broker a peace deal, okay? Because NATO and the United States and Canada, all of them are going to sit there with their thumbs in their ass looking very, very stupid, right? If China brokers a peace deal.
Yeah.
Thank you for the money, right? Something has to break, and it's not going to be the nuclear power plant. China's going to intervene because they're the big boys sitting at the table, and that's what it looks like right now. Okay, we know who the little kids are, so that is a big story. I think you better look into that one for tomorrow.
Chicken Lady says, Rick is rude. I had to step out for a minute, but I went back to listen to that fire caller. Wow, Rick, let the caller talk. Well, I did let the caller talk, but you know what I'm not going to do, Chicken Lady, is I'm not just going to let people come on here and spew and spew and spew and scare the living daylights out of people. And I know that a lot of you are addicted to the fear porn and you want to hear all this stuff, but until somebody shows me that it's actually true, I'm going to challenge him on it. I'm going to challenge anybody that calls up here and spews this kind of stuff because I don't see any evidence that the government is intentionally setting all these fires because they want to corral us into 15-minute cities. So show me some proof.
No,
it's not true.
No, show me the benefit that would benefit any government starting fires. I don't see any benefit in it. Okay,
no,
not for anybody. Now, here's the other fear one. Stand for the, I think it is. They're running around from town to town doing their speeches, this, that. I get a memo the other night from a guy who was speaking, and he shows me everything they're going to be talking about bringing treason for Trudeau and the grand jury. And I had to stop and I questioned him. Listen, we're in Canada, buddy. There is no grand jury.
Right.
Okay, so he didn't know. He thought there was a grand jury. I went, fuck, I don't know who's feeding you guys full of bullshit here. Yeah, we have preliminary hearings, but we don't have grand juries. Okay, and, they're running on fear. And I'm just sick and tired of it too, man. Really, I am. I barbecue steaks for my whole family. There's 11 of us here today. And, just peaceful. No political talk. none of it, right? None of well, we can't say it. You're on YouTube, right? But the other talk that gets you into trouble all the time. None of that talk, right?
Now, Chicken Lady's
No
saying here,
math.
she says, I think it is pretty premature to say how these started. I'll agree with that. We don't know. And that's a fair statement. I don't know how these fires started. I'll agree with
Chicken
that.
Lady, go and investigate it. I guarantee you somebody in that town, because there's big money. Okay, when these firefighters are making $40 an hour, $50 an hour, because it's a risk paid job. Okay, and it's high risk. Okay, people are starting these fires. I believe some are started by lightning, but not all of them. Right? When it comes down to that, people are getting paid. Right? The whole town goes to work.
Well, in
So
fact,
it's
this
not
is
the
why
government.
I brought up 2 nights ago statistics going all the way back to, I think, 2008. And they show in there, these were from British Columbia wildfires, the percentage and how they're started. And 50 to 60% are started by people. That's not to say that's the government doing it, but it's arson or it's accidental. It's like started by humans. And Danielle Smith in the clip that I played earlier acknowledged that as well. 50 to 60% started by people.
Right. You got the guy who smokes cigarettes and throws a cigarette butt out the window. Well, you don't give a fuck because he's doing 100 kilometers an hour. You don't see it again. He won't be back through that town for 6 months, right? That starts fires, right? But I do believe, I know for a fact, right? I just know for a fact because I sat in prison cells with people that, telling me, hey, when there's no work, they start a fire, right? And it creates work for the whole town. And it's pretty sad when it comes down to that, right? You look at the big picture at the end of the day, right? And just investigate it. Don't sit there and point fingers. It's the government. I don't like the government. I could care less. Everybody knows discontent for the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party, all of them, right? They're all the same to me at the end of the day, right? And but I don't think they're starting fires. I know that for a fact. When you got 60%.
Danielle Smith did not get on the phone and say, okay, it's time for the trucks to roll. Get the igniters out there and let's blaze. Like, I don't think so.
Anybody that's blaming Danielle Smith or liberal bootlickers or NDP, okay, Danielle Smith is genuine from what I could tell. That for watching politics my whole life, okay, she's genuine on what she says and what she's doing, right? And if I was in Alberta, she'd have my vote. I love her, man.
And even Trudeau, like why would Trudeau, like it just this is crazy talk. It's just crazy stuff. That's all there is to it.
It is 100%, right? And as we see right now, everybody's campaigning, even though they say they're not campaigning. They're campaigning one way or another. The only one who has a right to campaign is Danielle Smith at this time.
Yeah, she's actually in an election.
Right. Exactly right. She's the only one who should be out there campaigning and doing what she does, right, as a politician. The rest of them, it's all, oh no, it's for the convention party and this and that bullshit. When I hear the speeches coming out of their mouth, okay, that's campaigning any way you like it. So, just beware. Vote. That's all we can do as Canadians. And I hear these people saying, "Oh, we're gonna hang Trudeau for treason and this and that." It's like, are you joking me? You can't be saying that shit. For starters, okay. Not only you'll see C11, okay, the freedom of speech and all that crap, right? You just can't say it. Even if C11 wasn't on the table, you still can't say that.
Yeah.
And then people are going to cry when they're sitting in jail going, see, all I did is I said it, my freedom of speech. No, it's your context and the freedom of speech that it's uttering a death threat. It's criminal. Plain and simple.
Yeah. And, people, they say these things. Imagine what that would really be like. Just think about that for a minute. They want to hang people in the public square. Okay. Who's going to do that?
1990 Romania all over again, where they did up Francesca, I think it was, and his wife, his whole family. They hung him in the square, right? It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Give your head a shake.
Yeah, and who the hell wants that? We want that? Who wants that? Who's gonna pull the handle? Right?
Not this guy.
Not me either.
Not this.
People,
But there are a lot of whack jobs that will pull that handle, Rick. You know that, and I know that, and everybody in this group knows that. Okay, you hear it, and you see it all the time. There's a lot of hatred going on. I haven't seen hatred like this in my beloved country in my whole life. Okay, it's getting out of hand to the point people just want to burn it all down and start over. We could do it, and you're going to have your General Jason LaFetche and fucking these clowns out there that are Ron Clark that are going to be out there fucking running the country. I'll tell you what, you're going to be the first ones going to a fucking jail, or worse, because governments do make people disappear. Right? You become a threat, and you're too big of a threat. You're eliminated.
well, Leo,
Plain simple.
this is why I got so, jacked when Timber called with this talk of, the government setting these fires, because I watched the video that really started the cascade of all of this talk, and I know who started it.
Right.
And in that video, the guy who started this, he was like, "Oh yeah, it's like this isn't natural, and the government's doing all this, and we're gonna have to take a stand. We're gonna have to fight." And I'm like, "Oh, I see. Here we go." Because that's exactly what it's about, man. It's about just getting people angry and getting them jacked up.
Right. Trying to get yourself your little army out there, okay, to retaliate. Well, these guys that are the shit disturbers and the instigators hide behind a computer, okay, when the shit hits the fan, they run for cover. Okay. And that's just the bottom line. And anybody out there that are threatening people in this group and shit, come and threaten me. I don't give a fuck. Come on. Anytime. Bring your game to me. I'll show you how I play my game. My game's a lot different than anybody else's out there. And that's the bottom line. And I'm easy to find. I'm a lot easier to find than Rick Walker. I guarantee you on that one. And I make it that easy because there's a lot of bitches out there. And I do a lot of live videos, Rich, and I do it for a reason. Okay. Because there's a lot of big mouths out there. Oh yeah, I'm going to feed it to you when I see Leo Lucia, this and that. Well, guess what? I go live. And you know where I'm at. I'm live. Come on down and fucking do what you say. You're going to feed me? Well, I'm hungry and I want to eat. We're going to see who's going to be eaten at the end of the day, right? So I don't get it. All I know is there's a lot of fucking wacko jobs out there today, more than there were 20 years ago, Rick. And that's no joke. So, and just look at the Snowden files. I watched that movie the other night. I watched it before too, but the one, who's in it? The Doug Snowden one on Netflix. That's out, right? And just look at, and he exposed the truth. This guy exposed the truth. Okay. And at the end of the day, he's living in Russia. His girlfriend came back to him, or now they're married or whatever, right? And he's living the dream in Russia. There was illegal things that were going on that the U.S. government was doing, like spying, okay, on everybody. They had more spying going on in America than they had going on in Russia, in China. They were spying on their own people.
Right.
Okay, and we all know he exposed it, right? This and that. And he was making the software to do this shit. Okay, if the man wants to really get a hold of you, he has you already, folks. You're sitting on a computer right now or on your cell phone, watching Maverick, talking shit about doing this and doing that and everything else. Believe me, even when your cell phone's off, they can still listen to conversations. You can pull the battery out of your phone, okay, and they're still listening. Believe it or not, folks, this is true. Okay, so that's why you see people when they go into certain meetings, they put their microwaves and they put their phones in microwaves. Okay, because they know these are the guys that built the software that'll tell you. Okay, these phones that we have right now, and you're paying 50, 60, 70, shit, I pay $100 a month for my cell phone bill, okay, with unlimited data. So I'm paying for something that is ultimately tracking me all the time.
Yeah.
I left my phone at work. I drove home, and the 15 minutes, I'm like, shit, did I leave it there? I drop it. The wife has a tracker. She goes on it. Okay, she knows exactly where I am at all times. I go to Thamesville. She says, I'm actually in Bothwell last week looking at Bob Probert's car, okay, in the garage. And it was 9 o'clock in the morning, and she calls me. She says, what are you doing? I said, I'm out at Greg's. She goes, I know exactly where you are. And we were laughing because she's got a tracker on my phone. That's my wife. What do you think the government has?
That's right.
right? Beware, folks. Just play smart if you're going to play smart. You know, if you're going to accuse people, have the evidence up front. Okay, have it up front because it is libelous and slanderous in the court of law. You could be sued.
Yeah,
plain and simple. So, with that being said, you have a good night, Rick. Go
Thank you.
Toronto, folks.
Thank you, Leo. Have a good night, my friend. Okay, who's on the line here next? No name. Go ahead.
I think it's Maverick.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm just fine. Thanks for calling.
Hey. Yeah, it's been a bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think the world's going crazy, man.
Yeah.
Paranoia and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I live up in northern BC, and every year it's talk about fires, wildfires.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really see it being much different than any other year, at least in BC.
Mm-hmm.
And 9 out of 10 times it's caused by lightning, exhaust from vehicles, campfires left unattended. It's usually not arson.
Yep.
And I lived in Alberta, and they're way worse this year than normal.
Mm-hmm.
But not, like, I mean, we still have the whole year to go through, and I don't think it's anything to really be, it's not as abnormal as people are making it out to be.
Right.
It's really dry, and it's really windy there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it makes it bad conditions, right? And uncontrollable, but I don't think people are out there setting arsons left, right, and center. 2018 was really bad for fires in BC, and then there was the Fort McMurray fire in Alberta.
Yep.
That was dreadful. It happens every year. You want a conspiracy theory? I think the one that I'd go for is how the Liberals are going to swing this for more taxes for climate change.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep.
But yeah, that was all I called in to say. As somebody who lives in BC, I don't find it way worse. I think it's a lot of fear porn.
Mm-hmm.
Fear porn on both sides. Like if I turn on the news, that's all they're talking about, and they're making it like this is the worst year ever. This is, you know,
Yep.
And that I don't find that really true.
Right.
I think we'll probably average out like we generally do for the most part. And I don't think anybody's out there setting fires en masse. You know, I don't think the government's involved in it. Nothing like that. It's just how it is.
Yeah. That's why.
And the other.
That's why I brought out all those
Yeah, go
stats.
ahead.
I brought out all the stats 2 nights ago to show exactly what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, almost always it's campfires, except for down south in like the Kelowna area. People are out on their quads, people are out in their vehicles, and it is so hot in that area. It's so hot. And my brother lives in Kelowna, and he has asthma. And I'm always like, why would you move there? Because you know, from like a March all the way to like end of September, it's just smoke the whole time.
Yeah.
There's always a forest fire going, always.
Yeah.
In his area, you know, I don't know how anybody with breathing problems could stand to live there. You know, but I'm very fortunate where I live up in northern BC. We don't get very many. But,
yeah.
And but yeah, and I remember when I lived in Fort Mac, it was hot and it was windy, and I can imagine down like in the Edmonton area where it's prairie, that wind just goes, you know.
Yeah.
So
and the wind makes it spread faster too, and it feeds it. So
yeah, and they do set fires. They do purposely set fires when fighting the fire, you know. And so like people are taking pictures of that or videos of that and saying things, and then you have people who are paranoid. And let's face it, like a lot of us are. We don't trust our government. We don't trust what they say on the news. So we are looking at the other side of it. But you have to realize sometimes that it's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? You have to stop yourself. You know. And the other thing I wanted to say was I work at a store, and I don't know if it's different in Ontario, but here in BC we charge you 10, 15, 20 cents a bag, plastic bag. So when we say to you, would you like a bag? And if you say yes, we're charging you.
Yeah, I paid for this bag. These bags.
That's the way. Yeah, and that's the way the government has done it. They've decided that if if you really want the plastic bags, then you'll pay for it. But they're not completely banned.
So it's
Now
still
have to
legal
charge you.
for them to sell them to you.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's still a choice.
So if
for
you
the
go into a store, if you go into a store like the Dollarama here, I know gives them out, and you can say, I would like to buy 20 bags, and they'll give you 20 bags, but they'll charge you for it.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I was just happy to
It's
get
just a
one
way to try to curb it. Me
Yeah.
too. I use it for my cat litter.
Yeah.
I use them for my cat litter, and like it was like when they became impossible to find, I'm like, I don't want to be double bagging kitchen garbage bags for that, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, they come in handy, or cleaning up dog poop or whatever, you know.
I
in the
use them for all
springtime.
kinds of things. You know, I really
Yeah,
do.
for sure.
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
They're-
and I'll let you go. I just also wanted to say before I do that I really like your Rumble channel. I really like Rumble Chat, and it's a nice change. And I won't be going back to YouTube.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad that that's
hopefully-
working out. In fact, you know what?
Yeah,
Tonight we've doubled our audience. Did you know that? And you know why? Because we're back on YouTube. We have just kind of an average number of people on YouTube, and we've built a bigger audience over on Rumble. So now we have both, and it's like I'm looking at the numbers, and it's like double. I'm like, wow. Thanks.
Like
thanks,
Dragon
YouTube.
said, all the cool kids are on Rumble.
Yeah, everybody needs to go over there. So,
All right.
silver
Well,
lining.
okay. You have a great night.
Thank you. A great call. Appreciate it.
Okay. Bye, Rick.
Yeah. Okay. Here's Antonio. Hello, sir. I'm glad that you
Hi,
called in
Rick.
tonight.
Good
How are you?
evening.
Hi.
Good, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to pony off of what you said about migrating into Fred's tank.
Yes.
So I think if you're a freshwater fish, you should stay in fresh water. And if you're a saltwater fish, you stay in salt water. If you evolve into a freshwater fish, then you may be able to come into Fred's tank. But you got to keep the salt out. Otherwise, it's going to pollute the tank. And I think that's what pretty much happened in our nation.
Well, you could
Right?
argue that Fred is indigenous to his environment now because he's the first
Right.
inhabitant of this country, right? And it's fresh
Correct.
water, so we wouldn't want to upset the ecosystem, I don't think. And isn't it interesting that we have ultimate control over his entire environment? Like we really do control the climate and every aspect of his environment. And he doesn't even know it.
Yes. And I think that took place for a long time in this nation. And it's when the salt started getting into the fresh water that we started, changing policies and laws and and that's when it started getting corrupt. But
So do you think then that
you-
what we're talking about here is bestowing rights on Fred, so that we're saying well, Fred has the right to exist in a country that is of fresh water?
Absolutely. I think that if you're gonna, there are other freshwater, salt water or freshwater lakes that you can go to that may accept you, but I don't think you should contaminate Fred's indigenous tank.
Right.
If you can put it that way.
Now, there are other species of freshwater fish that if we introduced into his environment, they would kill him. Of that, I have no doubt, because they instinctively will attack him and kill him.
That's actually a fact from what I understand. In Lake Ontario, there was a fish that was introduced and it started killing off other fishes.
There are many invasive
I'm not
species that have come
100% on
in
it.
that in the ballast water of ships, like, you have zebra mussels in the Great Lakes. You have sea lamprey that will attach themselves to the sides of other fish, including like lake trout, and just they suck the blood right out of them and kill them. They're ugly cusses, those things, man. Like they have like an eel, and they have all these teeth, and they attach right to the side of the fish, and they do not let go. And those are not native to the Great Lakes. They've been around for a while now.
Right. You know what?
So,
And that may be happening in your comparison.
right. So if
to the
I were
nation,
to allow, say, like I said, if there are a lot of you can look it up, but if we make a decision to put other kinds of fish in there and say, well, I like these, I use tiger barbs as an example, right? Oh, look at those nice tiger barbs. Let's rescue them from the fish orphanage and bring them back and put them in the tank with Fred. Well, now we've got a whole different scenario, right? Because now they've emigrated, and we've allowed the immigration to take place. And now that they're in the tank, do they have rights?
Right. Right. And taking away Fred's rights at the same time, right?
Yeah. Right.
Because if you can only have if Fred has thinks a certain way, and you bring in a different way of thinking, now you have to compromise what Fred once thought.
Yeah. Or you could look at it the other way. If we introduced a species of fish into that community where Fred might kill those fish, what about their rights? Is it fair for us to even bring them in, allow them the immigration to take place? And does Fred have the right to kill those fish?
Well, I think Fred would have his own constitution and his own rights. He would probably he should have those set out before he thinks about introducing any other invasive species.
And so, if you take
right,
everything we've
so
spoken
I
about,
think we had that, and it's been compromised.
So if we look at this.
So,
you can take this discussion and kind of overlay it onto our countries, right? And look at these issues.
That's what I was trying to make the comparison. Yeah,
exactly. Complicated.
So also, yeah, it is. It is. I think it's. I like the simplicity of it, though. I think it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of that, I'd like to. The other night, you had the program on. Is Justin Trudeau a dictator?
Yeah.
If I can comment on that.
Sure.
I just want to make a few comments. And for myself, I see it as simple as putting your car into drive. If Justin is not currently a dictator, he definitely is working towards being one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the definition of a dictator, when I looked it up, it says is a ruler with total power over a country.
Right.
Typically, one who has obtained control by force.
Mm-hmm.
He may not have total control as of yet, but he is forcing certain laws and/or policies down our throats.
Yeah.
You know, for example, the Kool-Aid, censorship, his climate agenda, etc.
Yeah.
And speaking of gearboxes, if I may make the analogy, the way I see it, Justin has got this nation in reverse, and that may be part of the Build Back Better agenda, and Jagmeet is in lockstep with him. But and I see it as Pierre Poilievre at this point. He appears to have went from neutral to first gear, and hopefully he can shift gears right up into overdrive. That all being said, I personally don't put my trust in people. that Rick, especially politicians,
Mm-hmm.
but in the man above. So yeah, I just thought I'd give that comparison as well.
Yeah.
Keeping it simple.
Well, thank you, Antonio. It's been a great call.
Rick, thank you. Thank you for all you do. Lord be with you, my friend.
You as well. You take care. Okay, let's move on. I think we have Don on the line. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Excellent. How are you?
Not too bad.
Go ahead.
So all I want to say is we got to figure out that we're all Americans, even Canadians, Mexicans. They signed that alliance. You remember?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So actually, we're all Americans, and we got to fight for America. And you know what I'm talking about, because I'm talking about Canada and Mexico, because they're overrunning us right now. And you better figure it out, because they already did that to Europe. Okay?
Okay. So,
okay, Rick? I'm not fucking playing. No, I'm serious. We're all Americans. We live in America.
Okay.
And Canada and Mexico is America. It's all America.
So if we're all Americans and it's all America, then why do you have an issue with people from Mexico coming north?
I don't.
Okay.
I have an issue with people from other countries coming from, like all other countries.
I see.
It's not only Mexico. It's every other country. It's Africa. It's every other country. Come on. You got to see. You can't even tell anymore. You can't even tell. Rick. How you gonna even start to tell?
You can't tell what?
Where they're even coming from. They're so mixed up. It's like they're coming from all other countries.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand yet?
Honestly, I'm having a little trouble following where you're trying to go with this.
In other words, they're all just coming through the border.
Okay.
Every country.
Yeah.
Nigerians, Africans, Guatemalans.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
You can't even tell anymore.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah. I understand.
And they're gonna. Not only am I up here, I'm up north, and where they're coming across is down south. But they're gonna keep coming up, and I've seen a record number in my area already. And they're gathering. They're gathering an attack. It's not bullshit. They are attacking, and it's getting closer to you in Canada, more north.
Where is it you're calling from? Where do you live?
I live in upstate New York.
Okay.
And I don't see many up here, but it's getting thicker. But I used to live in San Antonio, Texas.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I know a good Mexican from a bad Mexican. Okay? These are bad. They're like MS-13. They're bad. Bad. They will fucking slit your throat. I'm serious. They don't care.
Well, there are some bad people out there. That's true.
Yeah, well, yep, they are really bad, and they're coming for us.
Yeah. Okay, well, I appreciate the call. Thank you very much. You have a great night. And that gets us to just after 9 p.m. And I think that's my cue to wrap it up for the evening. It's been an interesting night. Thank you, everybody, for hanging in there and spending time with me and Fred. I lost the fish cam, so I can't have Fred come up on the screen to say farewell. I'm not sure what happened over there. That little fish cam's on the other side of the room, and something went haywire with it just a few minutes ago. So Fred's feed has been cut. But trust me, he's still alive and well, and he seems much happier in his bigger tank instead of in that little cup that they put him in at the fish orphanage. We'll be back tomorrow night. Everyone, if you are inclined to support the channel, you can donate at freedomreporters.com or at maverickdonations.com. And if you haven't subscribed on Rumble, please consider doing that. And you can still subscribe on YouTube if you'd like to. Hit the notification bell there. We're back on YouTube. I'm going to establish some Fred Fish Freedom Fighting Fish Cam feeds for YouTube exclusively, where Fred says absolutely nothing. I'm just going to run Fish Cam for a while on YouTube. And when that happens, that'll give you guys a chance to participate in the chat over there too. I guess if you want to hang out and look at the aquarium, I'm not sure when I'm going to set that up within the next day or two. And yeah, thank you everybody just for coming back, hanging out, having the discussions. And as I said, I'll be back tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Catch you on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.